Hey, do you have an idea for a podcast but don't know where to start? Or do you have an already existing podcast that you want to take to the next level? Well, check out WeKnowPodcasting.com. From concept development to theme music to editing to logos, WeKnowPodcasting.com is a one-stop shop for all things pod. Don't hesitate to hit us up. We're very nice.
Hello, and welcome to the End in Mind podcast. I'm your host, Caitlin, the owner of Meraki Media Management. The End in Mind is a place where we come to share stories, tips, and strategies of many entrepreneurs, creatives, business owners, and just some people that aren't willing to live the traditional lifestyle. We talk about how to live outside of the box today and how to incorporate what really is important in your life to keep that end goal always in mind. Again, if you would like to reach out to me in any type of way, you can find me on Instagram at Meraki_media_management, and I hope to hear from you all soon. Thanks so much and enjoy our show.
What is up, party people? I'm excited to be back with you guys today. I have a really awesome topic that I'm super passionate about because this is something that I've felt over the past few months. I feel like I'm finally reemerging and coming out of this slump that I was in, just emotionally, like socially. I was having a really hard time kind of getting back into things like post-pandemic. I love all my friends dearly, but it was just kind of like a culture shock for me. So now I am feeling like much more on point socially and able to chit chat a little bit more about like some of these emotions that I was feeling. So today's topic is all around motivation and what to do in business when you're freaking stumped, because I have definitely been feeling that over the past few months. And I think it was actually because I was not distanced from my business, but I wasn't as hands-on on a daily basis as I probably wanted to be, and my systems weren't set up correctly. So when something in business feels off, normally it takes me a few weeks, months to process it, figure out what was maybe not working in the capacity that I wanted to, and then coming back to figuring out how I can start to make this happen for myself in a way that, you know, feels good and is in alignment for myself and not anyone else. Because when you're in business and you are creating a service-based business, at times the motivation can get shifted, especially when you start working with new clients and you're trying to understand your system and processes as you're onboarding new clients. You're figuring out what capacity you can take on at a certain level, you know, how many clients you can bring on, especially when you're in something like social media management, like I said, a service-based business where maybe you're coaching people. It can be, you know, a little draining at times from your creativity, from the people that you're coaching. The energy can be off, and it happens in business frequently, honestly. And a lot of business owners don't talk about these slumps. So you guys know you come here for the End in Mind for some really awesome tea, right? And that's what this podcast episode is about today. So I want to share with you guys like how difficult this felt at times. And, you know, in the mornings when I would wake up, it would be like, it used to feel really exciting, especially like when you're 2 years into business, you're still strategically growing, you're trying to hit income goals. And then post-pandemic, people started going back to work. Some people started their own online businesses, which shout out to all y'all that have, because y'all are my people and I love you. And all these people started coming out of the woodwork to start to work with Meraki because we had kept our online presence really strong. You know, we launched a podcast during the pandemic. I did a lot of live talks, live trainings for free for clients through Facebook groups, you know, other communities that I've been involved with. And it really paid off in the long run. So when I come up to possibly another situation like that again, right? Because the world is always changing. We clearly don't know what will happen in the future, the more you can start to realize how resilient you are in business and how important this business is for yourself, the more you start to think like, damn, I got it, like I got this. Even under the pressure, I still remembered what my dreams were. I still kept that end in mind goal. That's what this podcast episode is all about. Honestly, that's what Meraki Media Management is all about. When we are supporting our clients with their social media presence, a lot of the times they come to us and they're in this slump. Maybe they don't feel comfortable showing up on social media every day. Maybe they're going through some sort of transition in their personal life and showing up just doesn't feel natural right now. That's where we come in. We take some of that pressure off, especially for our management clients, our training clients as well. We help show them how to strategically offer value when maybe you're not feeling 100%. A lot of this comes down to us knowing our ideal client. And you guys know how strategic I am around my business. We've curated our ideal client to really be this person, this woman, this powerhouse woman business owner that is a badass. Most of the time, she has some sort of holistic aspect to her business, exactly how I approach life. It's really in alignment with who I am. It's in alignment with who I've evolved into over these past few years. And I've started to see a lot of this work that I'm doing with my clients overlap into Meraki Media, overlap into personal growth. And it's really helping how I'm approaching my business as a whole, but it's also helping me understand who my person is, right? Like who my people are, who my ideal client avatar is. And that community of women is so powerful. They are very grounded. And that's something that I strive for on a daily basis. When you're in this slumped energy, it can create a lot of anxiety. Sometimes you wake up in the morning and you're thinking, who am I? Who am I today? And, especially for my mid 20-year-olds, I was just having this conversation with my mom when we were in New York a few days ago. It will be now a few weeks back for you guys when this is coming out. But we were talking about how people my age are going through an identity crisis. That's what happens in your mid 20s. You're out of college. You're really ready to step into who you want to be, for the rest of your life. And it's a lot of pressure to begin with. Add a pandemic on top and, you've got like a triple whammy. So for all of you mid 20-year-olds, I feel you. I'm 25. Next year in 2022, I'll be 26. And it's definitely one of those times in your life where you're just trying to navigate and figure out who you are. And then when you're also adding this post-pandemic on top of it, it's like, how do I even know who I am? Maybe for the past few years, if I wasn't doing something in my career that maybe I wanted to do, maybe I wasn't showing up perfectly in my relationships with people, or not perfectly, I shouldn't use that word. Maybe I wasn't showing up authentically in the relationships that I wanted to or how I wanted to be, right? And a lot of this comes down to self-awareness, and it doesn't have to be a super heavy topic. Like what I want you guys to realize is that personal growth can be fun. It is fun. And the more you start to discover about you, the more you can start to put yourself in these positions or scenarios that can better yourself. So through education, membership, coaching. Sometimes it's just the music that I'm listening to. Sometimes it's the things that I'm eating. It's how much time I'm spending with Bailey after work. Am I playing with her? If I'm not present with my dog, then there's something seriously wrong with me, right? Like there's something that I need to deal with. And the more I can incorporate fun back into my life, my podcast editor and I were just talking about this as well. Matt, We Know Podcasting, shout out to them. They're fantastic. Make sure that you guys look them up if you're thinking about starting a podcast. He is your guy, 15 years in this business. So when you're having fun in your business, it comes across. Like you guys know when I'm having fun on this podcast. We were just talking about the episode with Nicole Raquina. If you haven't had a chance to listen to that episode, I want you guys to go back and definitely listen to it. She is just so much fun and I love her energy. I love how she shows up. And when you're having fun in your business, you're having fun in your life, right? That is why we start a business. We can easily fall off track. And over these past few months, I was definitely feeling down in the dumps. I wasn't having fun anymore. It became really heavy, I wasn't feeling motivated. And a lot of it came down to me not having the correct systems in place, me not being present in my daily life. I was processing a lot of crap that I was going through, in my personal life, in my childhood. And it felt really heavy for me all the time. For all my lovely ladies that have, gone through trauma therapy and, PTSD and all of these things that can come out as you are in your mid-20s, even after that, right? And you're finding out about yourself. And it's like the veil has been lifted, right? As some people may say in therapy. It can be a tough pill to swallow. And there's this little child in you that wants to hang on to that dream life that you had created in your mind, out of maybe possibly going through trauma and trying to discover, like, you create this reality in order for you to be able to survive through that. And it's not always the truth, right? So then when you have this veil lifted, it's kind of depressing, you're like, dang, that was actually my life. Like, this is real. Like, that happened to me and that's okay. How can I get back to being me? Finding that authentic me. I love to laugh. I love to be silly. I love to have fun. Like, if you ask anybody in my life, I can be really, really quirky and I say some really wild things, sometimes things I shouldn't say. And that's who I am, like I can speak off the cuff and sometimes it's not exactly how I intend it, but they know who I am and they know how much I love them and I love to have fun and be silly, like I said, and quirky, crack some jokes, right? And the more you get back to that authentic you, especially after that veil has been lifted, you're reemerging out of this pandemic. We're headed into 2022. It's time for us to get back to that end goal. For a while, we had to give ourselves grace and let's have fun again. Like, let's get back to that fun because with fun comes motivation naturally. Last night, I was playing this game with Bales, which I think I'm going to put it up on my story so you guys can see like what my life is like post work, because it's literally sitting on the couch with Sean watching amazing shows and chasing Bailey around the living room because it's honestly too chilly out here for me to be taking her on walks in the cold and dark because now it gets dark at 5 o'clock, right? It's so early, sometimes 4:30. That is what brings me so much joy. Like after work, being able to spend time with my family, even while sometimes like I was just in New York with my mom, I was able to take some time off and really be present with her. We got to see some amazing shows. I want to talk on this topic of emotions being a form of energy because I haven't heard this used before in this direct comparison. And I was thinking about this the other day as I was writing content for this week. And, like an emotion is clearly a form of energy because you can pick up on somebody's emotions, like just when they're showing up on Instagram, how are they feeling that day? Are they looking down, And that's okay if they are. It's okay to show up when you're down. Like I recorded all of these podcast episodes for you guys when I was going through some really crazy. It'll probably be in the book someday, so you guys can all wait for that. That's definitely something I'm gonna keep to myself before the book. It was just wild. Like, when you come out of something that significant in your life, you can either choose to stay where you're at, stay stagnant, or you can take that opportunity of being locked in a house for a year and a half to change who you are and look at yourself seriously and don't judge, there's no judgment. Just be honest with who you are. Those emotions then convert into energy just naturally. And I found as I was processing, I did need a lot of time alone. Like being alone was helping me process. I'm an only child. Shout out to all my only child people out there. So being alone is actually really helpful for me. For some people that may hinder their happiness, but I find a lot of growth when I'm alone. So I had to kind of seclude myself for a while. But now I am like super ready, Traveling has really helped me, getting back to that social life with my family, being present with them and seeing how my emotions are affecting my energy. These are all patterns within ourselves. I was actually training somebody yesterday and she's fantastic. I'm going to ask her to be on the podcast. I haven't yet, so I'll keep her name to myself for now. But she works with women on how to understand their patterns and how to see how much their patterns affect their physical body, how much it affects their mental state, how much it affects their mindset. It has an impact on everything. And the more we can start to be honest about our patterns, it's a tough pill to swallow, the more we will start to find clarity within ourselves. It's following your intuition. Don't be afraid to tell yourself, dang, maybe I messed up on that, right? Like, maybe I shouldn't have said that thing, or saying that thing really put a pit in my stomach. How were you acting physically? How's your body reacting physically after something happens to you? And the more aware you become, the more you will start to live in that, higher divine self and being that person that you want to be, right? It's just being honest about these patterns. Like, Project Me with Tiffany had this line in this podcast, and I'm going to share it with you guys because it just really resonated with me for some reason. Like, when I was first starting this business, I felt like I was starting it for freedom only. And then I realized that I was starting this business for myself, and I wasn't starting it for freedom. I wasn't starting it to spend more time with my family. I wasn't starting it for money. I was starting it physically, absolutely, because I wanted to, not for anyone else. And I didn't have that realization until maybe a year, 2 years into starting Meraki Media. And prior to that, which Tiffany talked about on her podcast, she was like, you drinking that bottle of wine every night, trying to start a business, trying to figure out how you're going to make this work. I'm calling you out. And I'll admit it. At that time, maybe I wasn't really putting my needs first, right? It wasn't even like calling me out on the wine. It was like calling me out, saying like, stop putting everyone else's love for themselves or questions that they're asking you first. Start putting you first. Stop, if you don't feel like going out to dinner that night, don't go out to dinner that night. Like, be honest with what's working and what isn't working for yourself. And it just really hit home for me. That was after I've had these realizations, but I loved that line because it felt like, dang, like she really knows her ideal client and she's speaking directly to us, even if the wine analogy isn't fitting. On some level, it's fitting, right? Because we're prioritizing something else over our business and over what we actually want out of life. And again, that comes down to these emotions being energy, right? And finding that motivation within that energy and letting yourself have the bad emotions is really important. Don't suppress them. It took me a few months to work through some of those bad emotions that I was holding in, honestly, since I was 8 years old. That's a long time, for me to be suppressing emotion and not letting myself really feel. I just recorded a podcast episode with Angie. She's an amazing guest. It should be coming out soon if you guys haven't heard it yet. She is fantastic. And she talks about in the podcast when she was working for someone else, she felt her shoulders creeping up. She felt tension in her body. She felt like sick walking into work. That is how I felt, right? And when I started my business, I didn't understand why it wasn't going away. Like I quit this job. I feel like I'm living my, aligned self. But there's still something within me causing this pain. I felt like a ping pong ball was like bouncing around my body, bouncing around my stomach. And I had really tense shoulders. And it wasn't until meditation, therapy, personal development, slowing down, journaling, that I could start to let my guard down and let myself feel these emotions, feel it physically, meditate through it, push through the emotion, but allowing it to sit there until it was done, right? I cry a lot more openly now. That was something at a young age. I just thought crying was weak. I don't know who gave me that belief, but at some point it was given to me, right? My mom's actually very emotional, so I don't know where that belief came from. So I wouldn't let myself cry. And now now I cry frequently. If I'm upset about something, I'll just cry, like let it out, let the emotion come so that you can show up with your real energy, your real everyday energy, your divine self, who you are authentically. And that's what I wanted this message to be for you guys. If you're hurting right now, I feel you. I know where you are. Even if, it seems like I'm somewhat like conquering my goals, starting this business, doing this thing. Absolutely, I am. But there still was something within me that hadn't been dealt with. And until I dealt with that, until I got really real with myself and stopped blaming everyone else around me and started just looking at me, right? Like I'm the common denominator. That was when my life changed. And I hope that this helps you guys, have a quick look at maybe some of your patterns, maybe looking at some of those emotions that you've been suppressing, and give yourself the grace to sit with them. I love you guys, and I will see you next time on our next podcast episode. I wanted to also mention really quick, don't forget to leave our Apple Podcast review. We are still running the giveaway because we haven't gotten that many reviews, but please let me, support your local community. If I up it to $50, will it be more of an incentive? I want you guys to DM me if it would be more of an incentive. And our next podcast recording, we absolutely will do $50, even $100. Let me know which you prefer, and we can make it work because I appreciate you guys. I want to show you how much I care about your local communities and help our show reach more people. Okay, thanks everybody. See you next time.
Thank you so much for listening to The End in Mind. I would like to remind you all, if you haven't yet reached out to me on Instagram, we are at Meraki_media_management. It will be in our show notes as well. If you would like to reach out to me, we always offer free coaching through Instagram based around our Instagram training and our business Instagram practices. If you need any type of support, please do not hesitate to reach out to me there. And we also offer several different types of consulting and training packages if you're looking for a little bit more in-depth tips. So thank you all for listening in, and of course, I want you all to keep the end in mind as you continue with your day and or work week. Have a great week, and I will see you all next time.